The time is 6 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Aaron Berg. I'm the city supervisor and attorney for Sedro-Woolley.
Might be like, yet.
I got to start the recording. It's my pleasure on behalf of the mayor and city council to welcome all of you here tonight. This is a neutral voter forum hosted by the city of Sedro-Woolley, consistent with Washington State Public Disclosure Commission's Declaratory Order number 13. We're glad you're here, and we appreciate the candidates' participation tonight as well. This forum is being both audio and video recorded and will be available on the city's website for future viewing and listening. What we'll be doing tonight is taking questions from the audience. Bill McCann has volunteered to help us tonight by collecting questions. So if you have a question, you can write it on one of these cards, and if you just hold it up, Bill will come get it and bring it up here for Don Wick, who will be moderating tonight's event. So our process tonight is candidates will begin with 2 minutes for introductory statements. Those statements will be made in alphabetical order by office, beginning with the school board. The first response for questions then will alternate between candidates, with each candidate getting one question to respond and an optional 30-second rebuttal period. The order of responses will rotate with each question, and as you can see from the cards, you can pose questions to school board candidates, city council candidates, or to all of the candidates. So I will apologize in advance if our rotation gets a little flummoxed up. Don and I will do our best, but it's a little confusing with 3 candidates per office and the way we're running everybody together tonight. Pat Hayden will be our timekeeper tonight. He's got 2 signs to show you. One is the big red stop sign, and the other is the 30-second warning. Obviously, on the rebuttal, you don't get the 30-second warning because you only have 30 seconds. Finally, as we'll get through as many questions as we can, we've got a robust response for questions already tonight. And if you do the math, each question's about 14 and a half minutes or so. So we'll do our best to get through them. We're anticipating that we'll be here for about 2 hours, a little longer if necessary. And then we'll wrap up with 2-minute closing statements in the opposite order as the opening statements. So beginning with Tina and working our way west. And finally, we've been doing this now since 2014, when the League of Women Voters was no longer able to staff up an East County voter forum. And we've been saying this since then. We'll say it again, which is I think we can all agree that Sedro-Woolley and Skagit County are all about quality of life, clean air, clean water, etc. Our hope tonight is that you'll get into difficult questions and specific answers to these critical issues. That's why we offer this rebuttal period, is we as voters really want to know what's going on. And that's the sole purpose for tonight's event, is for all of you as voters to hear directly from your candidates. Are there any questions from candidates about the forum organization before Don kicks it off? Mary.
So will we be told, okay, Paula, this is your turn. You speak first.
Yes,
and then
yes.
Jared, now it's your turn. Okay.
Yeah, we're trusting a lot in Don's ability to track all of this rotation, but he will begin by posing the question. He'll say this is a question for City Council. This one begins with candidate Anderson, and then the second question for council would then begin with candidate Couch, and
Excellent.
so on.
Thank you very much for that
Say for
clarification.
the first 2 minutes that it was just strictly about our backgrounds, or could we start right in what we see as important?
You are free to use your 2 minutes however you see fit. As part of the forum, at the beginning and the end, each candidate is given 2 minutes for introductory and closing statements. All right, any other questions? With that, then, Don Wick has agreed to help us again, and we appreciate Don coming out and helping us. So with that, Don, let's do it.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I do want to say the system here this evening, and particularly the rotational system, it's been devised by, it's a complicated algorithm that's been hermetically sealed for the last few weeks. So if it doesn't go right, just blame Don. That's what you can do. I'm going to start with this quote. This is a brilliant political science professor, Larry Sabato, at the University of Virginia, where he said, every election is determined by the people who show up. That's why he's a political science is professor and you're not, I guess. So very, very interesting. We will start, we'll go from this side to begin with the 2-minute opening, and at the end of the close, we'll go from this side to this side. Want me to repeat that? Everybody? Okay. The races for primary races for school board, and the election is coming up. You may have already received, I think you did, most of you, your absentee ballots in the mail. School board, 2 positions tonight for city council in the primary. In the general election, there are 3 positions, 1 unopposed for school board, and there's 4 positions, 1 unopposed for the Sedro-Woolley City Council. We will start with Wendy Granberg. Wendy, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight and attending the Candidates Forum. My name is Wendy Granberg, and I am currently running for a seat on the Sedro-Woolley School Board. My teenage son and I reside in our home located in District 4. I'm a longtime Sedro-Woolley resident. I attended Sedro-Woolley schools and graduated from Sedro-Woolley High School in 1990. My mother was a longtime teacher at Cascade, and my son has attended Sedro-Woolley schools since the 3rd grade. I strongly believe that access to a quality education and lifelong learning are foundations for a productive and satisfying life, and that is our duty to offer this to all students within the district. It is important that each student, regardless of their learning style or learning difference, their unique challenge or strength, all have access to public education and opportunities provided to them at every grade level. Giving back to community and serving those most in need is a necessary practice. To encourage students to volunteer, work hard, and extend mutual respect and kindness to one another is fundamentally important. It would be my true privilege to serve the students, teachers, staff, and parents of the district, and to advocate for education and learning. I bring leadership experience from my current role as Vice President of the Home Trust of Skagit and as a meal delivery coordinator and driver for the Sedro-Woolley Open Door Community Kitchen. I bring volunteer experience from my work as a partner family with Habitat for Humanity and volunteering with Community Action of Skagit County. I bring advocacy skills from my job as an appeals specialist at Regents Blue Shield, and I'm also a lifelong learner, currently completing my college degree. I've been committed to the causes of affordable housing and food distribution for over 10 years. I have a strong desire and willingness to listen and learn, and a fierce passion for serving my community and the children who go to school here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy Granberg. Mr. Eric Johnson, also a candidate for Sedro-Woolley School Board. Eric, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eric Johnson, and I am a candidate for the Sedro-Woolley School Board in Director District Number 4. I'd like to first start off by thanking the City of Sedro-Woolley, particularly Mayor Keith Wagner and Supervisor Aaron Berg, and then Don Wick as well for moderating this. I would also like to thank those in attendance tonight for caring so deeply about our civic process that they would sacrifice a beautiful summer evening to come out here. And so I guess we know who the political junkies of Sedro-Woolley are. Right now is a great time to be a part of Sedro-Woolley schools. There is a lot that is happening, there's a lot of changes and a lot of successes. I strongly believe that our school district's success is directly tied to the success of the city and the greater Sedro-Woolley community. These changes and successes, however, require a great deal of strategic planning and oversight. I believe that my education, graduating with a BA in government with a focus in public policy, along with my 6 years of service on the Sedro-Woolley Planning Commission, had given me the proper tools and experience to serve the students, teachers, staff, and administrators of the Sedro-Woolley School District well. Briefly speaking, my primary focus, if elected, would be making sure that the district is well set for the long haul. I want to see us build upon the current accomplishments that the school has done, to continue support and expansion of the STEM program, increase attention to our civic education, making sure that students needing specialized learning are cared for, and that the school's infrastructure and resources are well managed. It is a lofty task, but I think that's part of what makes Sedro-Woolley School District so great. I look forward to the questions and comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric Johnson. Pamela Santangelo is a candidate for the Sedro-Woolley School Board. Pamela, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Santangelo, and I am the owner of Interpreting Technology, which is a local computer and network support organization. We originally formed in Sedro-Woolley, but our office is now currently in Burlington. So I didn't have a pre-written statement, but I tend to like to talk, and so hopefully I'm well-spoken enough for you this evening. I am very privileged to be a parent in this district. I have 2 children in the elementary schools. I have one who will be a 6th grader and another who will be a 2nd grader. And as such, I've had the great opportunity to be able to spend time in the elementary school each week as I volunteer. During that time, I've had the opportunity to see firsthand how some of the decisions from the administrative level are impacting the kids and our teachers' ability to work with the children. Over the course of the last month, I've had many conversations. One of the things I've learned is, unfortunately, a lot of the things that as parents and the teachers are frustrated with are coming down from Olympia and D.C., and quite literally their hands may be tied in certain aspects. However, there are a lot of areas in which I do hope to be able to have influence. One of the key issues I'm most passionate about is the lunchroom issue. And raise the hands, how many here are parents in the elementary schools right now? Fantastic, thank you. So if you haven't had the opportunity to eat lunch with the littles, they have 12 minutes at the table. This is not a matter of poor time management. They quite literally do not have enough time to eat. And as a result, they're hungry and they're not learning. So that aside, there's other issues at Bay too. Families who have students with special needs are really fighting to be able to have their IEPs acknowledged and other details such as that. But anyways, I've been very committed in the community through my business. We provide uncompensated support to Skagit Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Services. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pamela. We now move on to the 2 positions for Sedro-Woolley City Council. First, at large. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. First, Mary Anderson. Mary, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. I'm so thrilled to see so many people here tonight interested in our government and our schools. I feel very privileged to speak with you tonight. My name is Mary Anderson, and I'm running for Sedro-Woolley City Council at large. Some of you may recognize me from the Sedro-Woolley elementary schools where I taught music, volunteered in the classrooms, and served as treasurer and president of the booster clubs, or from the Cub Scouts where I served as assistant cubmaster of Pack 67, to the Sedro-Woolley's high school band parent group where I was treasurer for 6 years, or perhaps from the Sedro-Woolley Farmers Market where I am still treasurer, or maybe you know me from the Sedro-Woolley City Library where I've worked for nearly 15 years. I've lived, worked, and volunteered here in Sedro-Woolley for 27 and a half years, with 2 sons, both Eagle Scouts and college graduates who went through the Sedro-Woolley school system, and a great husband of 32 years this year. But I'd really like to speak tonight about the citizens of Sedro-Woolley, your issues, concerns, and ideas. I've been attending regularly the City Council meetings for some time now, and it seems to me there's a disconnect between what the citizens are concerned about and what the city is giving them. Issues like the senior center upgrade, the city streets, revitalizing our downtown, signs pointing to our historic downtown at the roundabouts. These are issues brought before the council that the city government doesn't seem to hear. So I am running, not because I have a personal agenda or for personal gain. I am running because I want to be your voice at City Hall. I am not afraid to stand up for you and make sure your concerns are addressed. If you vote for me and I am elected, this is what you will get. Your voice, not mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Anderson. Our next candidate, Jared Couch. Jared, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Don. How outstanding is it to have a room full of people at this forum? I look out, I see lawyers, doctors, nurses, business owners, but overall I see a room of people that I look forward to serving and a room of people that I could work with. My name is Jared Couch. I'm a Sedro-Woolley High School graduate. I was born on Jamison Street in 1989, and a year later moved to Lyman, where I grew up and spent my younger years and running the streets and being a kid. Sedro-Woolley has always been my home, because when you go to school in Cheney, Washington, and you spend a lot of time in Spokane, if you tell somebody you're from Lyman, they look at you pretty funny. But most people know where Sedro-Woolley is. So Sedro-Woolley has always been my home. And graduated from Sedro-Woolley High School in 2007. I went to Eastern Washington University and graduated in 2011. I came home, worked construction for 3 months, and went to work for the Skagit County Sheriff's Office, where I worked in the Skagit County Jail. I served for just shy of 5 years there and have continued my career in law enforcement and serving the people. My parents, both wonderful people, raised a public servant in my mind. I've always had a calling to serve the community that I'm within. When I was in college, I was student government, Superior Court Justice. I was my associated student body president at Sedro-Woolley High School, and now I want to be your city councilman at large. I look forward to working with the council that I believe has done some great things, and I think they're a wonderful group of people that I look forward to working with, and I look forward to serving you as your city council at large. I hope to interact with you all in the future and hear your concerns and hear things that we can do better. Everything from maintaining outstanding public safety to helping our small businesses really get to the root of helping their bottom line. So I'm Jared Couch, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jared. Our next candidate for the at-large position is Paula Kelly. Paula, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Don. And thank you to the city for putting this on. I'm Paula Kelly, and I would appreciate your vote for the council at-large position. I've lived in Sedro-Woolley area for most of my life, and we still offer a beautiful place to live and still provide good-paying jobs right here in Sedro-Woolley. Those wage earners must also have affordable housing, great parks, and schools to attract the kind of growth we want here in our city. This is why when I was running an insurance office here in town and Mayor Sharon Dillon asked me to work in developing a revitalization committee, I said yes. Through that involvement, we knew that trying to create another entity would only further divide energies and resources, which is why I've always sought the collaborative approach with other organizations. From that initial involvement, I became a part of the chamber, and in 2009 was asked to become its current executive director. I knew Sedro-Woolley could once again be a major source of jobs in our area. An example is the development of the Swift Center, which is vital to sustainable growth and desired progress. It will become the 21st century leader in world-changing technology. Through the years, I've had the opportunity to connect with many partners, including the city, the schools, the county, EDAS, the port, and the state. I have also served on the Cascade Loop Association Board, the Peace Health Community Board, where I'm president now, and our local Boys and Girls Clubs. These connections have helped bring the Swift Center into development and the STEM network. Forward thinking and positive action are the keys. The Chamber has been one avenue, and I look forward to serving on the City Council so that I can continue that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. We now move to City Council Ward 3. Incumbent is Brenda Kinzer, and we'll start. Brenda, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Don. I am Brenda Kinzer, and I am your current Ward 3 City Council person. I'm a Skagit County native, and I fell in love with Sedro-Woolley when I was only 14 years old, when I had the opportunity to ride my horse in the Laga Rodeo Parade. As soon as I became an adult, I moved into the area and have lived in Sedro-Woolley or the Lyman area ever since. In my mind, this is one of the best places in Washington to live, and I want to continue to help this city move forward in a positive manner in any way we can, and we're already making progress in ways such as the library. We've made improvements on parks. We're moving forward in we're also taking a lot of negative rebuttal about it, but we're making progress. A little about myself. I work at the hospital. I worked in horticulture for 20 years, but I finally moved back to my first love, which is medical. I work at United General Hospital now. Some things we'd like to work on, some things I'd like to work on as we move forward is revitalization of the downtown area. We need to make Sedro-Woolley a destination place again. If you're out and about, you hear people say, oh, let's go to Fairhaven or let's go to LaConner, but you really don't hear, oh, let's go to Sedro-Woolley unless there's a big event here in town. But we really need to work on that, and that's going to be one of my future goals, is to get our downtown turned into a destination area again so that we can bring in more revenue to the city and make this a productive provider of goods and services for all the employees that we're going to get into the city with the Swift Center industrial projects that are going on up there. I'd appreciate your vote for Ward 3 City Council again. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next candidate for Ward 3 is Dennis O'Neill. Dennis, you have 2 minutes.
Well, it's a little awkward being up here after being down there for so long and throwing the questions out. It's a lot more fun being down there. I'm not even sure this thing's working. I don't have any hearing at all in this ear, so don't think I'm trying to if my speaking is a little too high or too low, I'm sorry about that. I've been fighting it for 4 or 5 days. And anyway, I am Dennis O'Neill, and I moved over here to Washington State when I was 29. I was raised on a cattle, wheat, and hay ranch in Montana, near Havre, Montana. And of course, if anybody's ever been through Havre, they'll see the Carnegie Library still standing, which was much like, from the pictures, the one we had down here. And it's a really classy building. They build them right, and it looks good. So I did move out here at the age of 29 and applied and was hired by Seattle First and in banking to actually represent the eastern side of the state because of my background and college degree in business and economics. I enjoyed it a great deal, and from there, when Sue first got in a little trouble, I went to work with PCA, which was even more interesting because they were strictly ag people and not doing a lot of business loans. I picked up an awful lot on finance and management, as well as marketing, because we were responsible for ourselves. It occurred to me that every desk you see in a bank is supposed to generate their own profits from their personality and from their knowledge and doing the right thing for their customers. And I would hope that would be seen as transferring over to what I'm trying to do now. I went different locations, and I ended up in Sedro-Woolley after moving up here with the Federal Land Bank, which was a transfer from PCA to Land Bank, which is a mortgage lender. To that, I went to independent mortgage lender, and well, actually not so independent because I was with Sears and then U.S. Bank. I did deal with a lot of people up here, and before I forget to do this, if you look at my notes, you can see why I might forget. They're pretty scrambled. I would like to thank...
Time's up. Your time's up, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
The next candidate for Ward 3 is Tina Tate. Tina, you have 2 minutes.
First, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It's great to see so many people that are interested and involved in local government. More than ever right now in our political climate, we need people who are involved and interested, so thank you for that. I reside in Sedro-Woolley. I've lived in Skagit County for about 20 years. I've only lived in Sedro-Woolley for 3 years. However, I have spent a lot of time here over the years being involved with business and other organizations. I'm running for the city council position because I've seen growth and I want to be a part of that. I have felt a calling to serve the city to make it a better place for all of its citizens. I did not decide to run because I feel that the current council members are doing a bad job or that I should step in and take control. I believe that if people work together, there will not be many things to disagree about. And if you have council members there just to be disagreeable, then you will never accomplish anything. I bring to the council a strong leadership ability and ability to problem solve. I'm a graduate of Leadership Skagit and am currently still involved as a team coach. I've also been a respected leader in many areas of Skagit County for a few years now. I'm the executive director of Friendship House, and having been working with a nonprofit and board of directors, I understand what it takes for a group of people to work together and to move forward to make progress. Some areas of focus for me would be code enforcement, bringing in new business, revitalization of downtown, and parks. I'm ready to start learning more and listening to the ideas and concerns of the people in my ward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tina. Thank you very much, Tina. We now go to the question phase, and when the first question is directed to all of you, and we'll start at this end and go to this end. So, Wendy, you're the fortunate person that gets to start this off. The question by one of our audience members: what makes you stand out in comparison to the other candidates for your position? What makes you the best choice? You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I believe what makes me the best candidate for the school board is I currently have a son going through the school system. I have gone through the Sedro-Woolley school system. I am a homeowner taxpayer as well. I have a strong desire and willingness to listen and learn, and a fierce passion for serving my community and the children who go to school here. I'm very excited about this opportunity to be involved in the district and help all students succeed in our public school. I am a lifelong learner myself. I am very passionate about reading, education, and I would love the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eric, same question. What makes you stand out in comparison to the others for your position, and what makes you the best choice?
Well, I think the obvious one for me is I obviously stand out because I'm the youngest candidate here. But the reason I believe that I'm the best choice for this position is that I believe that Sedro-Woolley is prime right now for the opportunity to pass the baton from one generation of leadership to the next. I believe that the school is in a financially sound state, that there's a lot of great programs going on, and that there's a wealth of experience both within the superintendent and then also the school board that would help transition from one generation to the other. And so I look forward to having that opportunity.
Thank you, Eric. Pamela, same question. What makes you stand out in comparison to the others, and what makes you the best choice?
Thank you, Don. You know, honestly, I may not be. Here's the thing. You need to research it yourself, and that's why you're here today, so thank you for taking the time to do that. I imagine my colleagues and I probably all have website and other information out there that you can look us up. But the reason I think I may be a suitable candidate is not only am I a CEO, I'm a parent, and I'm also a community volunteer. I spend time in the classroom, and I have candid conversations with other parents and teachers on a regular, ongoing basis. And I decided when I opted to become a candidate is any conversation I have with a fellow parent and teacher, I'm going to treat it as I have a non-disclosure agreement with that individual so I can maintain their privacy with whatever they choose to disclose with me. I'm very passionate about a lot of different topics, and I'm very committed to the vitality and health of our school systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to rebuttal on the Sedro-Woolley School Board now. We do want to announce we've taken 49 questions, so unless you have the absolute best question in the history of the universe, we probably have enough questions tonight. But thank you so much for your participation. We really appreciate it. We're going to go to rebuttal. Wendy, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
My goodness, first up. Well, I appreciate everything that the two of you had to say. I agree with the points that you're passionate about. The school is in a good standing. It is a great time and opportunity for lots of growth. I would like to continue to see the schools be successful, continue to see the budget be funded, and continue to provide access to all students regardless of general or special education, as well as extracurricular in sports. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I didn't make myself totally clear. The rebuttal is the only one where you have a choice on. The other ones are mandatory. You have to answer. Rebuttals, you can choose to provide a rebuttal or not. But Eric Johnson, the rebuttal is yours.
I don't know if I necessarily have a rebuttal against anything that they've said, because I think that everything that they said is true. I guess I would just simply add to the fact that my background in civics would also be something that I would add as a benefit for myself as a candidate. I would like to look into the possibility of reviewing and maybe enhancing our civic education program within the school district.
Thank you, Eric. Pamela, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
For my rebuttal, one thing I'd like to add is I'm actually in the process of going to start an MBA intensive program. And in that way, it'll put me in a greater position of having a stronger education background with all the fun things in business that drive an organization forward: forecasting, budgets, financial analysis. I'm so excited. And I'm not being sarcastic. But one thing I do want to address is there are some things in the school district that are very concerning. And while there's so many things that are great, I'm hoping that we can address the concerns too.
Thank you. We'll move to City Council. First to the at-large position, Mary Anderson. The question to you, you have 1 minute. What makes you stand out in comparison to the other candidates for your position, and what makes you the best choice?
Well, I believe that comparisons are odious, so I would never presume to comment on either of my opponents. I think they must be wonderful people. They're up here, aren't they? I have been regularly attending Sedro-Woolley City Council meetings for quite some time, so I've seen how the operation works, and I've been a little disconcerted by some of the ways things have been handled. However, I love people, and I very much enjoy working with people, so I am happy and cheerful. In fact, some of you may have seen me out in your neighborhoods, just coming to your door and asking what your concerns and interests are, and that's really what I'm running for. I want to be your voice on the City Council. I am not afraid to stand up for you. I am not afraid to be someone who takes a position and holds to it. However, I am also a collaborative person who does like to work with other people. I have been on many boards and have enjoyed working with people from all walks of life. And so I'm eager to hear what you have to say, and I'm eager to stand for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Jared, what makes you stand out in comparison to the others, and what makes you the best choice?
I think I'm your hit-your-ground running candidate. I think I look at the current council. They're a group of people that I would enjoy working with. I think we can have constructive work time and do great things for the city. I also believe that probably, between the three of us up here, I've probably have more experience working with all different kinds of populations of people. I think in law enforcement, you're thrown into very difficult situations, and you have to make split-second decisions. Not to downplay any type of work that either of my opponents do, but I've pretty well experienced working with all different kinds of people and coming to logical conclusions, and that's what I would bring to the council.
Thank you very much. What makes you stand out in comparison to the others, and what makes you the best choice?
I would say I'm probably the person who has the longest record of being in this community, and my family too. We have a deep commitment to the community. It's been shown over and over again. And part of that has been in developing ways to make it better. It's something that's really important to me and to my family. And I think that we want to see Sedro-Woolley thrive. And I think that big word right there is thrive. I think that we need to stop any infighting and work better together.
Thank you, Paula. We move to Ward 3. Brenda, what makes you stand out in comparison to the other candidates, and what makes you the best choice?
I think my one term of experience gives me a real good choice for city council. It kind of turns your thought pattern around to community. We're not so much driven for city anymore, but it's community. There's a learning curve that you go through when you take a position like this. You have a lot to learn about what works and what doesn't when you're sitting up here in the council seat, and you really, really have to learn to start listening to your community around you, not only your neighbors, but in your employment and in your community activities. I talk to people at the hospital. I talk to people in activities, extracurricular activities I've got going on. They don't all know my government involvement, but I learn from these people what they're unhappy about or what they are happy about and what they'd like to see in our community and what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And I believe that a term up here of experience has really helped me wrap my head around that.
Thank you, Brenda. Dennis, what makes you stand out in comparison to the other candidates, and what makes you the best choice?
Well, I know I'm the most direct up here because I'm a little different than anybody I ever met. And, you know, I spent a lot of time. I graduated from college at 28 and a little bit more mature, I guess, starting out. And I had a great training in banking, how to deal with folks in really bad situations that got financially in binds. And I worked for some really good people. And I learned a lot how to work with others who were having the difficulty. One of the things I take exception, maybe not, Brenda's my neighbor, so I can't she's too close to get too personal. But anyway, you know, I think you've got to, in order to support your mayor, I think you've got to be pretty tough sometimes on the questions you even pose to him as to why, and give me details and that sort of thing. You're in a supporting role to the mayor. And what I see is sort of reversed here. I don't know the exact percentages, but I would guess it's over 90% of the time. All the council people.
Dennis, I'm sorry, time is up. Tina Tate, what makes you stand out in comparison to the other candidates for your position, and what makes you the best choice?
I think what makes me stand out would be my current job and dealing with people in the community. Also, my leadership training and my roles as a leader in the community. I think that makes me stand out a little bit. What makes me the best person for the job, I think, is just that I bring a different perspective to the council. I believe that I have a lot of good ideas, and I really do want to learn more about the position and to listen to the people in the ward and what their concerns are and bring that to the council, but in a way that is collaborative and not just, this is what the people think and this is what we need to do, because there's some things that can be done and some things that can't be done, and we need to be realistic about that and work together to find solutions that are workable. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to rebuttal phase. If anyone has rebuttal here, Mary, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Thank you kindly. Bless your heart. I know that working in law enforcement, you generally see the worst of people. I work in a public library, so I see everything from the homeless all the way up to the people who are donating books left, right, and center. So I do see a lot of Sedro-Woolley, and people do share their concerns there. I tend to be a consensus builder. I like to gather things together. I like to gather people together, and when we get them together, we can work out solutions together. I don't believe in a top-down government where someone is elected and then says, I know what's best for you. Thank you.
Jared, 30 seconds.
I just want to say one thing. Undoubtedly, Paula has been in the community longer because I graduated with her grandkids. So, and I think that I'm the candidate that'll plug in best to this position to work with our current council and listen to the community on the issues that matter.
This could sound like Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan back in the day. Paula Kelly, 30 seconds.
You will remember that.
I do.
So, one of the things that I haven't brought up at all is the fact that I do have also a degree in political science from Gonzaga University. I have done advanced work beyond that degree in organizational leadership, and I have owned my own business, and I have supported many businesses here in town. And I look at what... That's fine.
All right. Brenda, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
I have no rebuttal.
Okay. Dennis O'Neill, 30 seconds if you so choose.
It's not really a rebuttal, but it's where I see the city needs to be is, again, with representatives who question the status quo and look for new direction, not just go with the flow. We have an awful lot of that, just go with what's working, whether it's really working well or not. And I think that's why I'm against, or I'm for term limits. You get a fresh perspective. I think I can provide that, and I'd like the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Tina Tate?
No rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn our next question to three school board members. And let's see, we'll start with Eric. You'll get the first question here. What ideas do you have for supporting students with special needs?
I believe that a lot of continued funding and continued training for teachers is important in this particular area. There's always the sensitivity around this issue that you need to make sure that they are well taken care of. They are kind of the least of these, if you will, and I believe that by making sure that there is specialized programs to meet each individual style of learning is probably the most important aspect to that.
Pamela, what do you have for supporting students? What ideas do you have for supporting students with special needs?
Thank you. First off, every student who is in special needs has what's referred to as an IEP, and they're supposed to be what sets the standards of what that child is supposed to be receiving from the school district. What I'm finding in my conversations is a lot of parents who do have special needs children are quite literally fighting to maintain the rights that have been guaranteed or supposed to be guaranteed by their IEPs. So that's an issue. So we need to come back to accountability. Where's that breakdown? Who's responsible for that? Why is it happening that these students are being failed in that capacity? I was really heartbroken by a few emails and phone calls that I've received with regards to this type of issue. And, the first question is to come back to the district and understand what's breaking and why aren't these being held accountable. So that would be the first step. We also have an issue on the other spectrum of our highly capable students. They're being failed as well. And I think I'm about out of time. So we'll come back to you on another topic.
Wendy, what ideas do you have for supporting students with special needs?
I fully believe in supporting students with special needs in terms of individualized education, obtaining as much funding as possible. But I also think that students with special needs need to be included with students in the general education population as well. Students who aren't in special need programs gain so much by including the students with special needs. They gain from learning from those students as well, learning compassion for those students, and having the students with special needs feel that they are also included with everyone in the school, that they are part of the general population of the students, and that they are they're not sidelined or siloed off into their own area, but that they are part of the school and they are a student at the school.
Thank you. Rebuttal, you have 30 seconds if you so choose. Eric?
No rebuttal.
Pamela?
So one thing that we also need to address is the dyslexic students. The school district currently isn't seeing dyslexia as a disability, and so the testing that's necessary to catch it early on and to help those students isn't happening in the capacity that it could be to be of most benefit. That's something else that the district needs to take more seriously and hopefully to be able to provide better resources. Also, the teachers need to be empowered and have the training necessary to be able to determine whether or not there is a child who may fall into that realm.
Thank you. Wendy?
No rebuttal.
Okay. We'll move to the City Council for a question. The first question will go to Jared. And the question is, what is your position on the new library proposal?
I think the work that our City Council did was outstanding. I know it's a topic of contention with people in my own race, but I think the right decision was made. We need to provide the best services that we can for our citizens in the most fiscal manner, and that's what we did. I think it's great to partner with the Central Skagit Library. One thing that I didn't want to see was, a kid from the city get turned down at the bookmobile if we weren't, if we didn't have reciprocation agreements. How can you look at a kid and say, no, you can't have this book because you live in the city, or no, you can't come into our library because you're from the county? That's not the message that we need to send to our kids, and I think it was the best decision was made, and I'm glad that our council moved forward on that.
Paula, what is your position on the new library?
I agree completely with what he just said. I would like to point out some facts about our library. The first official library was the Carnegie Library. It was built in 1915, but it was torn down 45 years later. Our current library is not a Carnegie Library. It was opened in 1962, and the city sold the land where the library was located to the Sedro-Woolley School District, where the school gymnasium was built and is currently in place. Many agree that community members throughout the school district, both inside and outside the city limits, need convenient and cost-appropriate library services. Many also agree existing city library space has become cramped and outdated, and an opportunity has arisen with the city library to join with the central library, and I am really proud that the city council saw fit to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda, what is your position on the new library proposal?
I am and always have been entirely in favor of the library merger between the city and Central Skagit. And my reason for being in favor of it is for our young people. We've got some of the smartest kids right here in Sedro-Woolley, high scoring, great graduation rates, and a wonderful STEM program with a lot of support also. And we need to be able to provide a learning environment for those kids where they can come together and work on projects or do studying, whatever they need to do or want to do together. And also future generations, kids that aren't even born yet. We have to be looking towards the future to provide for them. They are the future of Sedro-Woolley. And our merger is much needed in order to provide this environment and the tools, equipment, technology, everything that is needed for our students. We'll also have great places for older generations to go. Older, speaking of, like myself.
Thank you, Brenda. Your time's up. Thank you. Dennis O'Neill, what is your position on the new library proposal?
Well, I was actually for it, even though there was a commentary in the paper last Saturday night people might have seen, and it totally just misrepresented most of people's views on subjects. But I differ a little bit on this. You know, the public is the one who paid for this library we got over 90 years, and I think it should have gone to a vote by the people. It wasn't that difficult. I think when you start bypassing the general voters, you're setting it up to continue doing that, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think the goal's correct. I like the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. But again, I think you're forgetting one important element, and that's the voters in this town. It took a long time to get this thing through. It could have been really cut back quite a bit, and efforts made on other business, but that never happened. I don't think it's good leadership. I think we should have gone. I think the voters should have been trusted to make the right decision with the facts that they are, and so I'm disappointed.
Thank you. Tina Tate, what is your position on the new library proposal?
Well, I agree with Jared, Paula, and Brenda on the issue of, I can remember when I first learned that there were 2 libraries in Sedro-Woolley, and I thought, why are we having this duplication of services? It didn't make any sense. And in a city like Sedro-Woolley, where the County isn't that far away. I mean, there's a lot of really rural areas that are part of the community, but yet they're being treated as if they're not part of the city. And that didn't make a lot of sense to me either. So I think that the library is a great idea, and I'm in support of it.
Mary Anderson, what is your position on the new library proposal?
I have never been opposed to collaboration. Let me make that perfectly plain. I have been a proponent of literacy in this community for 25 years. My family and I actually went out and gathered several hundred signatures to enable the citizens, the residents of the county to vote to form the Central Skagit Library. The next step should have been a vote of the people of Sedro-Woolley. That's the Revised Code of Washington 2712-370, and that should have happened. And now with these new interlocal agreements, which the City Council has already approved, that annexation vote is being denied the citizens of Sedro-Woolley. I am in favor of a collaboration, and it's a done deal. So let's move forward.
Thank you. We now have, if you so wish, 30 seconds for rebuttal. Jared, do you want to take 30 seconds now? Paula?
I'm good.
Brenda?
No, thank you.
I'm all right, thanks.
I'm good, thanks.
Mary?
Want me again? It is what it is. Now I think we should move forward and get the best library we can for the money that we have and make sure that that money is spent appropriately.
Okay, thank you. The next question is directed to the Sedro-Woolley School Board candidates, and we'll start with Pamela. It's your turn. What is your position on sex education in schools, especially middle school?
I'm for it. And the reason I'm for it is because it's been found time and time again that that education needs to take place in order to protect our children, to ensure that they are educated and understand the risk, as well as, the risk not only of STDs, but also the potential of pregnancy. It's easy to assume that education is going to take place at home, but unfortunately, if you look at other states in this great nation, that isn't happening in a lot of areas of our country where the education is placed on the homes, and there's a very high correlation between the education, or the lack of education, and then high teen pregnancy rates. And by having that education and empowering the kids to make smarter decisions for themselves and their own well-being, it correlates to a lower teen pregnancy rate.
Thank you. Wendy, what is your position on sex education in schools, especially middle school?
Thank you. I do support sex education in school. I think that's part of teaching and educating a well-rounded person for their own protection and to prevent, as she mentioned, unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, etc. And it's part of being a human. Knowing that is very important, and we can't be guaranteed it might be communicated or taught at home. So I think as a community and as a school, that would be an important role to take to present that information to students.
Thank you. Jared, what is your position on sex education in schools, especially middle school?
Yeah, Jared.
I'm sorry. How do you feel about that, Jared? I'm sorry, Eric.
I'm completely fine with having sex education, especially in middle school. I think, it wasn't too long ago that, I was a little kid in middle school with raging hormones too, so I know that, that happens. That's kind of when that starts to really develop for kids, and to get them educated early on that subject, I think is vitally important. I think as you've seen sex education, its prominence in schools increase, you've seen pregnancy rates actually decrease. So in that regard, yeah, I fully support it.
Thank you. Now we have time for rebuttal. If you so choose, you have 30 seconds, Pamela.
So one thing I'd like to add to this is we need to bring into that conversation the importance of empowering the kids to understand what healthy relationships look like, being able to explain to them what, if you have a relationship with someone and they're forcing you or they're making you uncomfortable, or maybe they're starting to talk to you in an unkind manner, what that actually correlates to. Unfortunately, we have a very high percentage of domestic violence occurrences and sexual assault instances. Skagit DV SAS does an amazing service for our community, and it's important to bring those conversations to the table too.
Thank you. We do have 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
I would just add that without providing this could be trouble, and that it's part of being a healthy, whole person. Thank you.
I'd like to actually add to what Pamela talked about. I think instituting a very strong no means no campaign during that time is also very important, and even continuing that through the high school education process.
Jared? No, just kidding. Thank you all. We'll move to City Council and Polo. This question is for you. What specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract core downtown investment?
I believe I've been working on that for the past 15 years as part of the Sedro-Woolley Chamber of Commerce and the Revitalization Committee. But one of the things that we've been up against for many years has been a recession. And I'm really quite amazed that our city has the tenacity and the wherewithal to just keep surviving no matter what we're challenged with. And right now, our city downtown is pretty full, and I like it. So I'm all for more.
Thank you. Brenda, what specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract more downtown investment?
I'd like to see making it more of a destination spot. Have retailers in the downtown area that can provide goods and services that we need here in town, that we can go and buy here in Sedro-Woolley instead of having to go to Burlington. I'd also like to see possibly some landscaping downtown just to dress it up a little bit. When I go around to other towns looking around to see what are they doing to make their city thrive, I see a really attractive landscaping nature, trees, definitely, bushes, some sitting areas, benches. I think we need that here as well. Possibly we can eliminate some of the fees that are put in place on starting new businesses. Possibly we can make an ordinance for the downtown area allowing only retail or eating establishments, so we're having revenue come in from everybody in the downtown core. Thank you.
Dennis, what specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract core downtown investment?
Well, one of the things I brought up here about a month ago, it's been brought up before and nothing's happened, is the parking issue is just horrendous downtown. People aren't going to, if they drive in here and they turn around and go back. The last one was the antique shop downtown across from Joe's Bakery, and luckily he had enough money to go over here and he's starting anew in Ace Hardware, and he actually found a buyer for his place downtown, but he said that he could have done both without ever having a buyer. Not too many people can do that. So I think making it more convenient for shoppers to come. If you have shoppers demand, you're going to see more businesses come here. But if you don't treat the shoppers right, they are not going to be here. We've got a lot of businesses downtown that are basically of a religious type, where they have church meetings on Saturday and Sunday. I think it's great, but I don't know if you want to use that in your prime location. It was one of the issues that the mayor and Aaron Berg brought up for the library. Putting that library out along the highway was going to be a bad spot.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay. Tina, what specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract core downtown investment?
I think that getting the landscape better is a great idea, putting in some attractive plants and things like that. I think that Sedro-Woolley has a lot of growth happening. There's a lot of people moving in, and we really need to focus on getting more businesses here, like maybe another grocery store or some businesses that the people of Sedro-Woolley can stay in Sedro-Woolley and do their shopping instead of going to Burlington and spending all their money in Burlington. And I would really like to look at and possibly put into place some incentives for business owners to open those businesses to make it attractive for them to come here and do that.
Thank you. Mary, what specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract core downtown investment?
One thing that I've spoken to several businesses in downtown Sedro-Woolley, one thing that they are concerned about is the homeless issue. We do have some homeless that make people feel intimidated to walk down the streets of Sedro-Woolley, which I know our police department is doing a good job addressing that. We have a ways to go. I agree with several of the other speakers. Downtown parking is a problem. There's absolutely no question about it. People can't find a place to park. They just give up. I would like to see more retail businesses that people would be willing to walk towards, and to facilitate that, I would like to see a bus system for seniors, perhaps, so that they can get downtown and spend their money downtown, what they have. I would also like to see someone conceive of something like, not necessarily like Leavenworth, but something that would revitalize our downtown by making it all look prosperous and not have some rundown buildings and some nice-looking buildings. Thank you.
Jared, what specific actions and incentives do you plan to personally carry out to attract core downtown investment?
I'd have to answer with an action. I would request, if on council, I would request of city staff to look into the possibility of a B&O tax incentives and credits that we could give back to the business, and look at that as an incentive. I'd like to hear, have our staff look more into that and report back to the council. I didn't, as a consumer downtown and someone who obviously lives in town, I haven't experienced some of these awful parking issues that people have spoke of, but, I'd like to see what we can do with that. But I can tell you one thing, if I'm on my way to Joy's Bakery and I have to park down the street and walk by Oliver Hammer, there's a good chance that I'm going to walk in and buy something else, or if I walk by a shop. So I don't want to say that, limited parking might be a good thing, but the more time people are on foot downtown, the more shops that they're going to step into.
Okay, we have allowed 30 seconds for rebuttal. If you would like to take advantage of that, Paula, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Well, I have a couple of things. Part of revitalization requires that we have landlords that care. Sorry, I'm messing with my mic. Some of our landlords are out-of-town landlords, and they literally have many times denied that they're going to do anything about their building. The other thing is I agree with Brenda. It would be nice to have more things downtown that make it attractive, but I know for a fact that Nathan is worked like crazy already, and he's...
Time's up.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
We have 30 seconds for 30 seconds, Brenda.
Since it was brought up to the city council a couple of meetings ago about the parking situation in downtown, I've really been keeping an eye on it. And yeah, there are some issues with it. I wonder if we ought to have our code enforcement out there taking a closer look at it, making sure that people are parked there within the time limit that they're supposed to, and make sure that they're really parked there for shopping and not other reasons. But yeah, parking is an issue. We've got the two city lots, and one is going to be repaired here very shortly, and but it does need to be addressed, definitely.
Dennis?
Well, I brought up something here on the, that building just burned down. I was asking the mayor, I never got a response, which is typical when you go to a council meeting. You can ask questions, but don't expect to get an answer, which I'd like to see changed. I think it's ridiculous to even plan on having people stop in to voice their concerns when you aren't going to answer them or address them. But we got a building downtown now. The big deal was knocking it down because it was unsightly. So now they knocked it down. and we got a big hole in the ground, and we got a fence around it, which is not quite as bad as the building, but why not just fill the darn thing, pay the owner or something?
Time's up. Tina Tate, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I have no rebuttal.
Mary?
I just wanted to say, Jared, it's great that you don't mind walking. There are some people who have trouble walking in the city, and they really do need parking close to where they need to be. Thanks.
Jared?
I'd like to say on the lot where the building burnt down and the unsightly fence, as Dennis put it, it's up. You know, we got to think about the landowner and what they're going through with insurance companies. I think we all could probably, think of a story that we haven't had the most positive experience, and I happen to know that it's on the top of his list to get that taken care of. And I would like to also thank Mayor Wagner for always being responsive as far as I've ever reached out to him, and to any citizens that I know that have asked him any questions.
We'll now move to school board members. We have a question. We'll start with Wendy. Chris Rockdell, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, has called for the state to adopt a policy of dual language for all K-2 students across the state. Do you support?
I think that is a wonderful idea or proposal. I think starting a second language at a young age is the best time. I understand that would cause or would create a need for extra teachers and perhaps extra funding for that program, but I think it's wonderful to start children learning at a young age a second language.
Eric Johnson, do you support dual language for all students?
I think I do. And a lot for the same reasons that Wendy has said. I mean, I think when you start learning a second language or an instrument or something that kind of activates that part of the brain, it helps facilitate wider learning in general. I think as we see society changing, that there's a growing demographic among the Hispanic community, and I think that not only as a welcoming sign, but also as a sign that times are changing a little bit. That it would be good to speak two languages. And when I learned Spanish in college, I kind of regretted not having had more of it in my elementary years. So I fully support it.
Pamela, do you support dual language in schools K-12?
I do, but I'd have some questions first in terms of implementation. What language? Is it going to just be one, or are we going to be allowing options? What's the funding going to look like? There's also a matter of how is the program going to be established. The dual language program, I believe, in one of the Burlington schools, I'm forgetting which one now, they have it set up where English is, say, in the morning, but then Spanish will be in the afternoon. And so then what I've been hearing from parents is their kids will be doing, great, but then they move into math and they're really confused because they're doing math in Spanish. And so that's not working for the kids who don't have Spanish as their first language, but it might be great for the kids who do. So we need to take a look at how is it being structured, first of all, and the implementation thereof to ensure that it's effective and it doesn't have a negative ramification on the primary education for the students as a whole.
Okay, thank you very much. Rebuttal? Wendy, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
No, thank you. But you brought up some good points.
Eric?
Implementation would definitely be a key factor. As a whole, I would support it. The devil's in the details, so it would be interesting to see how the Office of Superintendent of Public Education would want to see that implemented, or if that could be something that could be district by district, that each of us kind of finds our own unique way that best suits us. But as a whole, I would support it.
No additional comment.
Thank you very much. We move now. Brenda, you get the first question. What is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley right now?
Oh, it's definitely the downtown area in my mind. we've got to do something to get revenue coming into the town so we can take care of the needs that we need to, such as taking care of the streets, the sidewalks. That revenue's got to come from somewhere. And revitalizing the downtown and getting a larger sales tax base coming in is really going to help with that. We've got a lot of housing coming in as well. We'll have property tax coming in, but revitalizing the downtown is going to be the core of making Sedro-Woolley alive again. We need to bring it back to life. We need to bring it a destination. What can we do? It needs to be studied. What can we do to revitalize the town? What have other cities done? We really need to take a look at this very hard, see what other cities have done, see how we can do that. Here in Sedro-Woolley, we need to develop a committee between the city, current businesses, possibly future businesses, and the chamber.
Thank you, Brenda. Dennis O'Neill, what is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley right now?
I would think it's also getting some attraction to businesses here. And, you know, one of the things, we got a wealth of people here that have had a good background and career, and they're retired here. Why not start asking some of them for suggestions and work with that? 3 years ago when this came up, I asked the councilman at the time, I said, do any of you ever go out of town and sit in on other council meetings? They got the same issues as we do. Why are we ignoring that and trying to reinvent the wheel? Let's get out and get some information. We got people here to travel, and they could sit in on those meetings too in different towns and bring it back. Let's get together. Let's unify. Let's do it, and quit talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Tina, what is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley right now?
Well, I think that bringing new business into Sedro-Woolley is definitely a very important issue, along with revitalization of the downtown. I would agree with that. But in the growth that we're seeing, it's important that we have the business revenue, the tax revenue, to support all of the services that it takes to maintain that housing that's going in. So I think that is really one of the things that Sedro-Woolley needs to focus on, is getting more business revenue, revitalization of the downtown included, and making sure that we have a sustainable growth.
Mary, what is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley?
I'm a little different from everybody else. I do agree that downtown revitalization is important, but I think the most pressing need facing Sedro-Woolley right now is the fact that our people are not being listened to when they speak. And I would like to take steps to do that by organizing town hall meetings so that we can hear what the people have to say, if they have ideas about downtown revitalization, if they have ideas about the transportation plan, if they have ideas about growth and how it should be managed. I think the people in Sedro-Woolley are smart, and I think that they know what they want, and I think that they should have the opportunity to do that. I don't think they have it now. When you come to a city council meeting, you speak your piece and that's the end. You don't have a back and forth and a give and take, and I think that that's vital to a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared, what is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley right now?
Too many campaign signs. They clutter up our town. No, honestly, I think it's a lack of housing. I think anybody in here could put their house on the market and probably sell it without even showing it. We talk about wanting to boost business and, do great things, which I support. But if we're going to have, if business is going to grow and we're bringing, new industry to our town, we would find places for people to live. Let's, have them live in Sedro-Woolley and spend their money in Sedro-Woolley. Let's not have them commute. So I think that's a big issue. I mean, it's great because our home values are going up. But if we want more people to come to town, we got to find somewhere to house them.
Paula, what is the most pressing issue facing Sedro-Woolley today?
I think that we do need to address affordable housing. Certainly, I've gone through the revitalization thing, but affordable housing means that someone who is working at Janicki Industries can find a place in town that they can live in and afford to live in, and then they will spend their money in town because it's more convenient for them. how do we develop more business? Well, that's not an easy answer. And I invite anyone out there who thinks they can do more for that to get in here and sign up with the Chamber on the Revitalization Committee, because it's really lacking in people. So, thank you.
Thank you. We allow, as you know, 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose. Brenda?
No rebuttal. Thank you.
Dennis?
Well, I'd focus on the same thing, marketing. We got all these departments over here. They always call for suggestions or find out where everybody's at with their projects. Why don't we have somebody that actually, the marketing director, that could go out and talk to these people in the community and other communities and bring things back? We're missing, that's what drives this city, is money. And money comes from people shopping and from businesses opening up. We haven't done that. We talk about it, about what we need to do, but nobody gives us a roadmap. It's the same old story.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Tina?
Just one thing I'd like to add. The affordable housing is also an issue. I've noticed that we've had a lot of housing going in, and housing is at a shortage all over the county. So that's one of the reasons why the houses go on the market and they sell so quickly, is every city is having this issue. So I would say that that's probably up there alongside the businesses, but without the business growth, with being able to sustain the housing growth, they kind of have to go hand in hand. But I would agree on the housing as well.
Thank you, Tina. Mary?
No rebuttal.
Jared? Paul?
Well, one other thing that I think that we need to look at is, as Tina just said, affordable housing is a major concern. Currently, the Realtors Association shows only a 1.9% vacancy rate in Skagit County. It's worse in Seattle. Those people are coming north. The people in Whatcom County are coming south. It needs to be something that we look at, because we have a growth area still here in Sedro-Woolley.
Thank you. We turn now to the Sedro-Woolley School Board candidates with this question. I believe we start with Eric Johnson. Eric, do you support expressing faith as religious freedom in the public arena?
I believe that as individuals, you have the right to express your individual faith in the public. I think that if students want to say their own personal prayers, or if they want to have a Bible club or organize some sort of other activity, that is perfectly within their First Amendment rights. However, I believe that a public official or a public employee should do their best to remain neutral. I'm fully supportive of teaching religion from an academic standpoint, but to actually endorse it, I believe is taking it a step too far and would be a violation of the Establishment Clause.
Thank you. Pamela, do you support expressing faith as a religious freedom in the public arena?
Honestly, I think Eric answered it excellently. I would echo what he said. I feel very strongly that the separation of church and state needs to be upheld in the school district, and while a student has the right to do what they feel is personally valuable for themselves, someone from the school should not be infringing on that in terms of endorsing. And we also need to be careful to make sure that we're not creating a situation where students are potentially ostracized in terms of whether or not they do not believe in the same things, where it creates a separation in that way.
Thank you. Wendy, do you support expressing faith as a religious freedom in the public arena?
Thank you. I certainly agree with what both the other candidates have stated. As the First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion, I do not believe it's the school's role to promote or teach or preach one religion over the other. Each student has their own right to believe or practice as they choose. I'm certainly all for us at maybe the high school level, a class on world religion, history of religion, etc. but I don't see it as the school's role to promote one religion over the other.
Okay. Eric, if you so choose, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Pamela? Okay. We will now move back to the council members, and we will start with Mr. Dennis O'Neill. Dennis, how would you feel about a repeal of the $1,000 a year city license fee for food trucks, noting that there are no food trucks in the city due to this, as the writer writes, prohibitive fee?
Well, I'd wonder who set that and what basis it was set on before I'd like to make opinion on it. I don't understand what that dollar amount came from and what kind of research went into it to set that level. And maybe it is too high, maybe it's too low. I don't know. It's just that I'd really look at who set it and what research went into it again. I mean, what's the point, you know?
Tina, how would you feel about a repeal of the $1,000 a year city license for food trucks?
That would definitely be something that I'd like to take a look at and find out the reasons behind that $1,000 fee. I wouldn't have an opinion of repealing it one way or the other until I know more about the issue itself.
Thank you. Mary, how would you feel about a repeal of the $1,000 a year city license for food trucks?
I would be very interested in taking a look at that. I've actually spoken to businesses in downtown Sedro-Woolley who have lamented the fact that there is no longer any food trucks available for them to go to during their lunch hour, which is sometimes limited to less than an hour. So I would encourage looking at that. I'm not opposed to food trucks in the downtown area. I support local restaurants and I attend local restaurants, but I think the more the merrier, and since I'm quite a foodie myself, I like to have options and opportunities. Thank you.
Jared, same question.
Well, I think we can all agree we like food, me especially, but we tax businesses, so there has to be some form of licensing through the city. There has to be some fee, some regulation on food trucks, so every food truck from here to Portland, Oregon isn't rolling into Sedro-Woolley to, shove us deep-fried Snickers bars. But I think there has to be some form of fee. We're taxing the structures that businesses are in, so I don't think the food truck should be exempt. So I would not be in favor of repealing it all. Maybe we could look at the amount or see what research went into the $1,000 amount.
Well, same question to you.
Well, I have a little background on that. I know that under Mayor Anderson, this was instituted to help protect our brick-and-mortar restaurants. It was done during a time of recession, and quite a few food trucks were coming in at the time, and he was not happy about that because he felt it took away from our local brick-and-mortar stores. The other thing is that I tend to think, though, that as we're evolving, this may be something that we do need to revisit as a council. So I would be for revisiting it.
Brenda?
The $1,000 fee went into effect before I was on the council, but I was under the understanding when that happened that it was, as Paula said, brought to the city's attention by the brick-and-mortar restaurants that they were concerned that they were losing revenue. But as time goes on, you see more food trucks around, and this is a way of people earning a living. And we all have visited a food, well, probably most of us have visited a food truck at a time or two, and we enjoy it. And I definitely think it should be revisited, at least to see if we can lower the fee for them. We should allow them.
Okay, we go to rebuttal, and you have 30 seconds if you so choose. Dennis?
I'd like to, I don't know, we've been really fortunate. We've got some great places downtown to eat, and they've paid their dues. I think that food trucks would be more appropriate and maybe could be slided off to not in the downtown area. then you'd have the best of both worlds. If they want to build a clientele, but it's not directly in the central area, let them do it. Maybe we'll get some people come in and we'll get some prosperity going that direction. But I think it'd just be terrible to sit there and throw unfair competition to the brick and mortar people down here that have been here a long time and paid their dues. I just like to make sure it's a level playing field for everyone. Thanks.
Tina, 30 seconds if you so choose.
I'd just like to add that I agree that the food trucks should have some sort of fees that they pay, as well as the brick and mortar places. But taking a look at where that $1,000 number came from would be a great idea.
Mary?
No rebuttal.
Jared?
I think one thing we can look into is using the revenue from the food trucks to increase parking in downtown.
Good idea.
Might make us all happy.
Paula?
No rebuttal.
Brandon?
No rebuttal.
Okay. We now go back to school board candidates.
You're right. My bad.
And Pamela, this question will be directed to you first. How do you feel about charter schools?
My answer might not be popular depending upon your position. I'm against them personally. Reason being is that they're pulling revenue that is supposed to be mandated for our public schools, and our public schools are already underfunded as it is. So we're running into a situation where these charter schools are not seeing the same regulation as the public school districts, and they're also taking funding that's supposed to go to our public schools. I don't think it's a healthy situation. Because of my industry, I have the privilege of working with other IT owners and all over the country. And I've had several conversations with owners who provide IT support to those charter schools, and they're just not well managed. They don't have the same regulations. They're blowing money left and right, and they don't have the same accountability. So no, I'm not in favor of charter schools.
Thank you very much. Wendy, how do you feel about charter schools?
Thank you. I think they might be a good idea in theory, but I think they've proven hard to implement and come to fruition. I also think at a time when the state has been unable to fully fund public education, that should be their top priority. And until public schools are fully funded, then perhaps at that time charter schools could be looked at. I also think could be cause for concern, students perhaps attending a charter school, then transitioning back to a public school. I think there could be a gap there. They might not be at the same level of fellow students in their grade, and I think the focus needs to be on public education, a level, equitable playing field for all students to start from.
Thank you. Eric?
So charter schools, there's a kind of a wide variety of charter schools. I mean, you have for-profit charter schools, which personally I'm against completely. I mean, you have virtual charter schools, non-profit charter schools. There are some publicly funded charter schools. But I think the problem is there's just too much data out there that hasn't been fully processed. New Orleans actually has a very successful charter school program. New York has somewhat of a successful one, but there's also a lot of disaster stories out there, and that's a little disconcerting to me, and it makes me definitely shy away from even really exploring that. I'd like to see it really ironed out a lot more. I'll let somebody else make those mistakes. Sedro-Woolley has the really good thing going. I think we should direct our funds towards our public school education, make that our focus, and if 15, 20 years down the road it works out, great, but for now, no.
Okay. 30 seconds if you so choose. Rebuttal.
I just want to add to my comment that Sedro-Woolley School District is a very unique school district in that we don't have the same revenue as, say, Burlington or Anacortes. A lot of the revenue into the school district comes from a forest agreement, and when the levies pass, then that funding is granted by the state. If levies don't pass, then they lose that dollar as well, so they get hit from two different angles. So we're in a situation where where our school district really has to quite literally fight for the dollar, and to potentially have any money reallocated towards a different structure is a problem. We need to focus on ensuring that our schools are fully funded with what we have.
Wendy, do you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we move back to the council candidates. And Tina, this first question is for you. Is there a priority that you would consider, where you would consider okay to ask the voters for a tax increase? Is there something out there where you'd say, yeah, we need a tax increase for this?
I think that at some point in time, there may be something that the city would need to ask the citizens to have a tax increase. At this time, I don't think that there is something that is that pressing that we need to ask for a tax increase, but there's always things that come up, and sometimes voters need to, or citizens need to have an increase in taxes.
Thank you. Mary, is there a priority where you might consider it okay to ask the voters for a tax increase?
If you look at this year's budget coming up, it's not a pretty sight. There's already tax increases built into it. The state is talking about raising property taxes as well. So I'm very concerned about our senior citizens who are on fixed income. So I don't really see at this point a tax increase that I would be comfortable with. It would have to depend on the emergency state of what it was.
Thank you. Jared?
I think most of us can agree tax increases aren't our favorite things, but if the community came forth and said, if there's a need for something and they're okay with, a tax increase to pay for it, a lot of times we see our public safety levies, pass very successfully if it's something that the community wants, and obviously we have to approach that with an open mind. We'll never stand before you and say I'm 100% against tax increases or I'm always for tax increases. I think that's absurd, and I think in the right situation, if it fits, yes, but I don't think it's a Band-Aid that we just need to pull out a tax increase out of our back pocket and throw on everything every time the city wants to buy something. It has to be given serious consideration before we raise the taxes and impact our citizens.
I don't think I have a personal priority for raising taxes. I think that there are, as has been said, reasons that I might be willing to come out and say, hey, I think we should fund this. The one thing that I would like to see us find the funds for is more money for our parks. I've worked with the Parks Department over the years, and they have done everything to support us. I'd like to be able to support them more.
Thank you. Brenda?
I'm never in favor of a property tax increase, and I wouldn't be. I'd much rather see adjusting the budget to meet the needs, but in the case of a utility tax increase, I would be in favor of one if we had a catastrophic infrastructure failure on, say, sewer treatment or stormwater, something like that, but only in a case like that.
Dennis?
Yeah, I'd sort of like to know what the basis was for it and where the money we've already budgeted has been going before I'd even look at any kind of tax increase. We don't have enough accountability of where our money's going. It gets shifted around to different departments and different programs. We don't even know about it. Maybe at the end of the year we'll know about it, but likely we won't because nobody can read the darn things. And I think it's used to be called zero-based budgeting, where you had to come out every year and justify your budget from the first dollar. And every department had to do that rather than just ride on what's already been out there. And I'd like to see our departments do that and the mayor do it and get on top of this before we start talking about tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
Jared? Paula? Brandon? Dennis?
Is that a rebuttal on myself? Well, I like the idea of zero-based budgeting and getting to know where we're at and getting those reports so all of us can read them, and not just finance people who've done a really great job that work for the city. They've got a lot of weight on their shoulders. But I would really like to see that to go along with a request. It takes work, but I think it's worth it, and it would pay us, as being taxpayers. I don't think anybody'd say no. If it was justified, you could show it. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the school board members, school board candidates, and Eric Johnson, this question, you start this off. What is the correct response to bullying in our schools?
In short, zero tolerance of any kind, virtual or physical bullying. But I think when a staff member or a faculty member sees bullying happen, that they should try to intervene in an appropriate manner. But there is actually a pretty good system in place that was passed back in 2010 by the state legislature that kind of helps create almost a judicious way of going about bullying, where first you intervene and you stop it, but also that a report is then filed and then there's an investigation. I do believe that you should. A bullying on its face, you might not know which side is actually the instigator and which is not. So there probably should be some sort of judicial action taken. However, I do believe that.
Okay, thank you. Pamela, what is the correct response to bullying in our schools?
Well, first I'd like to find out and properly understand what they're already doing. From what I understand, there's already strict rules around it as it is, but it's still an ever-pressing issue and also a very serious issue. But I'd like to take it a step farther. Cyberbullying is incredibly serious, and sexting is incredibly massive problem. Anacortes Middle School had a horrible sexting issue. They brought in the police. My husband went in from a forensic perspective and spoke to the parents about what software they need to look for that the kids' phones might have that's spreading sexting issues. Kids were dropping out of school because they just didn't want to go in because they were so terrified about being a victim of sexting. So it's such a complex issue. I don't have enough time to talk about it, but it's one I'm very passionate about, and it's something that parents need to start with, having candid conversations with their kids. It has to start there. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids that are participating in it, they may not necessarily have the supportive home life to understand.
We have rebuttals?
No, Wendy is just talking.
Wendy, I'm sorry. What is the correct response to bullying in our schools?
I think bullying is a real issue that requires real attention so we can come up with a genuine response or resolution. I think it's hard to implement and apply a policy because bullying is not black and white. What is bullying to one person might not appear as bullying to another. I think the most important thing is educating and talking about bullying from preschool on, and it should be an ongoing conversation, not just talking about once or twice a year. I think it's incredibly important that staff and teachers model the behavior, and that the message is, if you see something, say something, and it needs to be continually talked about, and have a culture that makes it okay to come forward with a concern or issue. Because it's definitely, it's a real issue that's affecting kids and students.
All right. Thank you.
So I'll just continue. What I was going to say is bullying is often done in the shadows of society too, and so I think it's important to encourage students to speak up, either speak up publicly against it as like a student campaign with the support of the teachers, but also to speak up anonymously if they see it, because that's the whole point of bullying, is the intimidation factor. And so if they they have an opportunity to safely report bullying that they may see, that would be very much supported.
So first off, elementary schools, they are having those conversations, and I believe it's continuing on into the middle school as well. I can't speak to the high school, but I believe those conversations are happening there too. There's a beautiful little story that talks about filling the bucket and doing kind things and being supportive to other people. I was a coach on Girls on the Run. If you're not familiar, it's a program ran through the YMCA. It teaches the children social development details while they're also training for 5Ks. And every time we met, we had a different topic, one of which was bullying, and I'm out of time.
I would just keep repeating, keep talking about it, talk about what bullying is, what it looks like, and just keep communicating it's okay to report it, and create the culture where it's known and discussed.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to Council Mary. We've had 4 or 5 questions on this one. Candidate Dennis O'Neill was quoted as preferring an older male city council according to this question and others. Does this reflect your views?
Well, I'm not sure he was quoted as saying that.
I think this is the question here, I'm sorry.
Misquoted there. Do you want to rephrase that question so it's like maybe plain English?
It was stated in the paper.
So it's in plain English. Dennis, what did you say?
I did not make that quote. I've asked the newspaper to send me a copy of the entire conversation. I think that's where it came from.
Okay.
And I honestly can't remember everything I said. I was in the car at the time, and they caught me on the road. And one of these things you learn is don't get into these. I bet Aaron could agree to this. You don't get into these verbal conversations. You know, it's better to respond in writing when you can sit down and see what you're doing. I've had this cold for 2 weeks, and and allergies, and I'm sorry if I said it. I don't think I did.
Well, you might not have to worry about it. The distracted law, driving law, goes into effect, I think, this Sunday. So it might change everything.
If you're asking me,
we'll move on to another question. What has the city done well, and what do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement? So 2 parts. What has the city done? And you have a full 60 seconds to answer this. What has the city done well, and what do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that?
The city air conditions this building really well. I think the city needs to listen to its citizens more and give respect to its citizens. I'm concerned about the transportation issues. I'm concerned about the library issue. I'm concerned about the seniors. I'm concerned about the sidewalks. I've been hearing from people out in the community there. They feel that people were elected promising to fix the sidewalks, and they feel like that has not happened. I only have 30 seconds. So I think the city is well-intentioned. I think we have an outstanding police and fire department. I think our transportation people work hard. I love my sewer I love my trash collectors. They're awesome. I think the sewer garbage bill is exorbitant for people, and I've been hearing about concerns about the slush fund or perhaps it's not a slush fund, but there is a lot of utility tax that's being collected, and people don't know where it's going.
Thank you. Jared, what has the city done well, and what do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement?
I think first and foremost, public safety. The city has done an outstanding job. I will say this time and time again, Sedro-Woolley has the absolute best police department in Skagit County. Thanks to Chief Tucker. Sedro-Woolley has the best fire department that, mind you, is ran by part-time firefighters, a ton of volunteers, and that's something to be proud of. When Burlington's on fire or the county's having a big fire, who do they always call for help? Sedro-Woolley's always there to help, and they do it on what I would call a shoestring budget. I think they've done an outstanding job. I think the city needs to work on a few less roundabouts. I understand they improve traffic safety. But I think the city has good leaders, good staff, and in very good spots. You know, I think the citizens have done a good job by electing a very diverse council.
Thank you,
signs
Jared.
upside down.
What has the...
Picky.
Upside down, what does that say? What has this, Paula, what has the city done well? What do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement?
I think the City Scene magazine, thank you, Aaron, has been a great addition. I think it's a great way to inform the public. I think that our public safety group is amazing. I do agree with Jared on that. When I think of how that building downtown burning could have turned out, and the fact that they contained it, that's amazing. So thank you very much. I like our mayor. I like our council. I think they've done a great job. I think they listen very well. I have never had any issue with that, and I think that anyone that does is probably just not getting the answers they like.
Thank you, Paula. Brenda, what has the city done well, and what do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement? Good question.
I think the city does very well on working with what we have. We have a very small employment size, number of employees working for the city, for the size of city that we have here. We work very well with the budget that we have. We always make it work while keeping tax increases to a minimum. I think communicating to the public what we are actually doing can possibly be improved on. Maybe we need to have more information on our website. Maybe we need to send out more mailers with our utility bills. More than willing to be open to hear how the public would like to get that information.
Thank you, Brenda. Dennis, what has the city done well? What do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement?
I like the idea what they're doing at current events. They put it on the billboard down there by the field, athletic field. I like that a lot because it keeps you in touch. I like the city scene. I think that was a great, whoever idea that was a great idea, generally. I think there could be more done with that to draw more people in. I don't know if it's down at the chamber office in Mount Vernon. I don't know if they let you put it down there even, but it's something to look at. And I think one other thing we could do is clean the city up a little bit. There's an awful lot of trash in our streets when you're out walking, which I do a lot of. And I know Lisa's husband does that too. I meet him out walking all the time. But I think that's something we could really do, some bare bones ideas. And we got people that I know a while back, we got people that get picked up for tickets. They work their tickets off by doing civic activities. I think that was a great idea. I think it should be implemented more further and grow from there. Thank you.
Tina, what has the city done well? What do you think the city needs to improve on, and how would you implement that improvement?
I think the city has done a lot of things well. I would also say fire and police department is stellar. And they're just the growth and the forward thinking of the city, the mayor, the council. I think they do a really good job. The Swift Center project, I'm super excited about that. And those kind of forward thinking ideas are done very well. As far as improvements, I would think that code enforcement things, such as the trash, I've been hearing quite a bit from people that they're concerned about the trash in the city and how that kind of leaves a poor impression on us. So I think getting some of the trash issues taken care of, some of the sidewalk issues would be something to definitely take a look at and see how we can make those things happen.
Thank you very much. Mary, we're back to you. 30 seconds for your rebuttal, if you so choose.
Yes, I would like to say I also love the hanging baskets in Sedro-Woolley, and I'd like to give a shout-out to Deborah Peterson, who has overseen our library, our small little library here for almost 30 years in Sedro-Woolley on a shoestring budget that the city has hardly ever given any money to. She is the queen of grant writers, and she has turned our tiny little library into one of the best collections in the valley. Thank you.
Jared. have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Just a comment, I do want to say, I know code enforcement's come up a couple times, and I think our code enforcement officer, Carr, does a really good job. I mean, if anybody's on, Facebook, we see that she's getting lost dogs home constantly, and dealing with issues all over town. The answer there is boots on the ground, having, more hours to allocate to that. So I think one of the things that if we see more need, then, we need to be willing to step up and expand upon that.
It was still upside down.
Regarding the trash issues, one of the things that we had was a great guy who just happened to go back to Italy. But he was the man who handled the group of offender work programs for us, and I don't know that we have anyone that's replaced him.
Melissa.
But it has, it has made a difference, and I do appreciate the fact that the flower baskets are paid for by the city now, because it was really hard to raise the money for them.
Can I just say that Melissa Doherty is doing it right now, and the reason why we don't have any offenders is because our Sedro-Woolley department is doing so well we don't have any offenders.
Brenda, you have 30 seconds.
Concerning the trash issue, yeah, it is becoming more of a problem around town, so maybe we as a city can look towards encouraging forming more volunteer groups to walk around and help pick up the trash.
Dennis?
Somebody mentioned earlier, and it's not a new term, a slush fund that the city has set up, that the mayor and city council can tap if there's agreement to doing so. The first time I heard about it was when we gave the $50,000 to Mount Vernon. And if and true, I think Aaron talked about it too. I know he did. And I think at the time it was $140,000 in there. My memory might be bad. So it's a little bit higher now. And I think it comes from sewer and garbage assessment. Somewhere it comes from. I'd like to see more of that. Sorry. Thank you.
Tina.
I'd just like to add that I personally know that we have one code enforcement person, and she does a fantastic job. Definitely wasn't saying anything about her not doing a good job. I just think that maybe we need some more. Volunteerism is a great idea, getting some volunteer groups to go out and pick up the trash. I just really would like to see some of that looked at and what creative things we can do to help that one code enforcement person.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the school board candidates. And this question, Pamela, let's start with you. What safety issues do our schools face, especially at the high school?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll be 100% honest. I probably don't know all the issues as it relates specifically at the high school level. I understand that there's been a discussion about having a safety officer, both at the high school as well as the middle school, and there's been some studies to show at other districts nationwide that when safety officers are implemented, the need for calling upon police action into the schools is reduced tremendously because they have someone right there who can bring down the situation more effectively. So it would be a matter of who pays for that, how's that allocated, is that a combined effort between the city and the school district, does the school district pay for that directly, and it also require a very special type of personality to interact with the kids and maintain that level of respect. There's probably other issues, but and I'm happy to learn more.
Thank you, Pamela. Wendy, what safety issues do our schools face, especially at the high school?
I do know that the safety and technology levy that passed 4 years ago in 2014, they used the funds to implement safety first, and they have added numerous cameras, fencing, auto-locking doors, keypad locks for doors, so someone with an old key from 10 years ago can't get in. Some of the elementary schools have an intercom or buzz-in system, so a visitor outside needs to be buzzed in instead of just walking through the door. So I believe there's been a lot of improvements, and I think that we can continue to build on those. They have also implemented a standard response protocol for all the schools, and I think There's always room for improvement in safety, but I think the schools have been doing a wonderful job.
Eric.
Wendy actually stole all my thunder. No, exactly. I think that the school is taking some pretty good steps in regards to safety from that last levy and using those funds. I know that they need to expand on the surveillance system, and they're in the active process of doing that. But beyond what Wendy said, I too would not know what other issues, but would be very much interested in finding out more and trying to figure out how we can address those issues.
Thank you. Emily, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. It didn't even occur to me because those were already in place. But yeah, the elementary schools, if you haven't visited, they have these huge monitors in the office now, and you have to buzz in to get in. And it was really funny because all the kids are like, "It's my prison." And it's actually kind of creepy in a way, but so it's kind of a give and take. Do we love the security? But then on the other hand, it quietly looks like a prison now with all the high fencing. So there is that. One thing that is taking place now, there's an ongoing discussion about having teachers be trained in the event of an active shooter. So we need to approach that with the kids, especially our little kids, very safely. I was volunteering one day when there was an earthquake drill, and the substitute teacher didn't communicate the earthquake drill very effectively. And I'm out of time, but there's pandemonium, kids were crying, and I ended up teaching technology.
The only thing I would add to that is I would like to see all visitors checked in at all schools, including the high school and the middle school, whether it's a parent or a volunteer. I think that needs to be enforced. And I think the first line of defense would be staff and students. If you see someone not there, you need to report it or question. And regarding the SRO, I'm not sure that one officer in one school could prevent a tragedy or an incident. I think it takes a village. It takes everyone at the school.
Eric.
I would say probably, if anything, trying to find some sort of funding to add additional security officers, because Sedro-Woolley is a pretty expansive school district, and we have various schools spread across very large distances. And so I think if we added a few more boots on the ground, that would be very helpful.
Thank you very much. We'll move back to the council candidates. Jared, we'll start with you. What specific issue brought you to desire to be a council member?
A vacant seat. Honestly, I don't walk in the door with a loaded agenda or a bone to pick with the current council. I want to serve the community. I came back. I feel like I'm well established in the community now. I've got my career underneath me. Got a home that I love in the community that I love. And the issue is having open-minded public servants, and I feel like I'm a great fit for that. And I just don't. I'm not I'm not a one-issue guy, because as soon as that issue is taken care of, those kind of people fizzle out, and that's not what you're going to get with me.
Thank you. Paula, what specific issue brought you to desire to be a council member?
I would say I am not a one-issue person either. I tend to look at a lot of different things that are challenges for our county, for our city, for our port, for all of the entities that I've worked with. And bringing them together has been my overriding goal, is how do I get these people working together. And I found that the city council and the mayor has done a great job of bringing that together. So I appreciate that, and that's why we have the Swift Center being built.
Brenda, what specific issue brought you desire to be a council member?
There was never one specific issue that that led me to want to be a council member. I was encouraged to run by those who had known me for several years and knew of my community involvement and my passion for this area. And I just decided I wanted to run 4 years ago because I love this area and I wanted to give my input on what I felt I could do to help the community and get the input from other people and what we can really do to keep this community moving forward in a positive way. So it was never really one specific thing that brought me here.
Thank you. Dennis, what specific issue brought you to desire to be a council member?
Coming here and talking to the city council and not getting any reply was a big one. I realized after the last time I did that, it's sort of a process just so the public can vent. It doesn't really solve anything. It's not set up to solve anything. It's just to let us get some pressure off. One of our officials here mentioned back in 2007 that the only people who really came, the majority of people came only to complain. And with that kind of an idea, it's not very conducive to getting anything from the public when you want it, if they really truly had read that. The other thing is, my big peeve is again, voter rights. I think they're being taken away. There was an article in the Sedro-Woolley City Scene in May of 2017. Our library has it, and most of the libraries have that, and I'd advise you to take a look at it. And not picking on City Attorney Berg, but he authored it, and I'm sure it didn't all come from him. But it was very, very hard for me to understand why people weren't raising a stink about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Tate, what specific issue brought you to desire to be a council member?
No issue brought me to desire to be a council member. My desire is for the service of the city, public service, and to be a part of a city that I think is going in a very good direction. I've seen how other cities can do things in a way that's not the best for the direction of the city, and I really want to be a part of a city that's going in the right direction and help guide that with some of my knowledge.
Thank you. Mary, what specific issue brought you to desire to be a council member?
To desire to be a council member is a pretty interesting question. I'm not sure I do. No, I take that back. I came a year and a half ago for the library, and I've stayed for all the other issues that I found fascinating and surprising in many ways. I'm very interested in city government and how it runs. I really believe that the voice of the people needs to be heard, and I am willing to step up for the people. I am a person who likes to build consensus, and I like to get everyone's input. I have worked with, years ago there was when it was Puget Power, they had a consumer panel, and I really enjoyed working with the people on that because we got to hear experts from various departments and then people from the community, and we came up with some conclusions that Puget Power eventually used. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to be a voice for the people. Thank you.
Jared, if you so choose, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Paula? Brenda? Dennis?
Nope, thank you.
Tina?
Nope.
Mary?
I'm rebutting myself. No, I'm good. Thank you.
We'll have one last question for the school board candidates, and then we'll come back with one last question for the council candidates. Thank you so much, all of you. For the school board candidates, do you see a combined district-wide library as a beneficial thing for our students? Why or why not? Wendy.
Thank you. I love libraries. I'm 100% for libraries. I'm a voracious reader. If this question is regarding the current partnership, the city and county library, it has been routinely communicated that this is being done for every single student in the Sedro-Woolley School District. This excludes students from Lyman and Hamilton. They will not be issued a free library card. So this, in fact, does not serve every single student within the Sedro-Woolley School District. I think Lyman and Hamilton are some of the most underserved and underrepresented students and citizens, and they could probably benefit the most from the resources and opportunities that the library can provide. I want nothing more than a big, prosperous, overflowing library of books, opportunities, classes, resources, and it looks like that partnership has begun. So,
thank you, Wendy. To you, Eric, do you see a combined district-wide library as a beneficial thing for our students? Why or why not?
I do. I'm very excited about the progress that the City Council has done so far on the library issue. I did not know about the Lyman and Hamilton thing. I would probably stress to those involved that it should be a entirely district-wide issue, and that everybody should have the opportunity to have the access to the same library and resources. From a school board perspective, I think that that's vital. Having opportunity for every student to have the same resources and the same access should be a no-brainer, and I highly support efforts to make that happen.
Thank you. Pamela, do you see a combined district-wide library as a beneficial thing for our students? Why or why not?
Every student should have the opportunity for the resources of books, and the school libraries are wonderful, but they only get to have 1 or 2 books depending upon their grade level. As they get older, they might be able to have a few more, and then they only get to go back once a week. And so if you have a really vivacious reader like my child, you might find yourself going several times a week. I was unaware of the Lyman-Hamilton issue. I would call into question then if Big Lake is also excluded. None of the information that I've read showed that detail. So I feel a little bit as if I'm lacking in some information, so I feel like I would need to further educate myself to be able to properly make a statement in that regard. But I do feel strongly that it is moving forward in a supportive direction, and hopefully if Lyman Hamilton is excluded, that can be resolved. That way it can truly be district-wide.
Thank you. 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I would state, I hope Lyman and Hamilton can be included as well, and keep reading.
Eric?
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
Thank you very much. We move back to council candidates. This is our final question, and we start with Paula. If you're making a decision where your own opinion of what is best is in contrast with your constituents' opinion, what course do you take? Do you vote your conscience, or do you vote your constituents?
I would hope to represent the city of Sedro-Woolley as a whole. I would like to be as well informed as possible. I do feel that it is an imperative that an elected official does represent the greatest amount of people in the area. So since this is an at-large position, that's who I plan to represent.
Brenda, if you are making a decision where your own opinion of what is best is in contrast with your constituents' opinion, what course do you take? Do you vote your conscience, or do you vote with your constituents?
I would have to go out and talk to my constituents and see if there's any that side with what my conscience says, and if the overall opinion differs from mine, then I'd have to vote with my constituents, because that's who I'm elected to represent.
Dennis, you want me to repeat the question?
Please. Please
Okay.
do.
If you are making a decision where your own opinion of what is best is in contrast with your constituents' opinion, what course do you take? Do you vote your conscience, or do you vote your constituents?
I try to find out where they're coming from. It may have been something I totally missed. It's amazing when you get in a group where you don't know the people there, and they come up with ideas you never ever thought of, and from their perspective, they might be hitting on something you totally missed. And I think you need to check into that before you jump one way or the other. And chances are they may have seen something you just totally missed. So it's a great idea to have that kind of feedback.
Want me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
The first thing that I would do would be to go out and talk to the constituents and give them all of the information that I have. Make sure that they have every side to the story so that they can make an informed decision. And if they still have a differing opinion than myself, then I would have to vote the direction that they are going with, because that's what I'm elected to do.
Thank you. Mary?
I can't conceive of a situation, and unless my constituents wanted something criminal, I can't conceive of a situation where I would not vote for my constituents before myself.
Thank you. Jared?
I think any good public servant and anybody with experience in public service knows that you have to go with your constituents. Just, as a personal draw in law enforcement, you might not always agree with exactly how the law is written, but the letter of the law is what you're sworn to serve, and that's what you have to follow. And I look at it the same way. If I'm elected, I'm here to serve the people.
That's right.
30 seconds for rebuttal, Paul.
Oops.
I think we all agreed.
Yeah, I think we did.
Brenda?
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
You got it.
Nobody wants to disagree with themselves. Okay. I see. Okay, we're time. It's for the closing. You have 2 minutes to close, and we start at this end. Tina Tate, you have 2 minutes.
I just want to say that I'm very excited to work with the mayor and other council members to make Sedro-Woolley a city to be envied. I think that we can be the front runner in many things and set an example for other cities. I have worked with other cities, and I can tell you that our city is by far the best at getting things done and making forward progress. I would like that to continue in a sustainable way. I want to see it done right because I have seen firsthand what happens when it's done wrong.
Thank you, Tina. Dennis, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Yeah, I basically, again, what City Attorney Berg said that one day, get involved. I got involved. And I think more people should do that instead of sitting back complaining. Get in there and tell people where you stand and what you stand for. The other thing I welcomed was the opportunity to clarify what the newspaper did to me the other day, and even our mayor. The misinformation is unbelievable. I was in the paper, it stated I was against the library because of this and that. And the main reason, which I tried to explain tonight, is I just think you've got to listen to your voters. That's the person that put you up here. That differs with a lot of things that are going on right now with council. And along with that, it's the same thing when you come in to talk to the council and you talk for 3 minutes and you get no feedback, you don't get any commitment to do anything, pretty soon you don't come anymore. And that's what's happened in this town. You come in here, there's 10 people in here most of the time unless they're giving special recognition to somebody. I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see our council members stand up more for the public. They aren't doing it. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Brenda, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Sedro-Woolley is going to be going through a lot of changes in the upcoming years. We've got a pretty big industrial complex coming in that has stated they expect to bring in hundreds of jobs. And we've got to do a lot as a city to make that so that we can meet the needs of those employees through housing, through goods, services, recreation. Wouldn't it be great if all those employees that worked at the Swift Center could get everything they need right here in Sedro-Woolley? Well, I'm committed to listening to what you, the residents, and my constituents in my ward have to say about what we can do to make that happen, and what we can do to make a sustainable city right here in Sedro-Woolley, and what we need to do to improve our downtown, to create business opportunities down there for more small business owners to come in here and be able to make a living and live here in town as well and buy everything you need right here in town. Those are my goals. Thank you.
Paul, you have 2 minutes.
In closing, In closing, we need to be forward-thinking in how we can best serve the long-term interests of our community. Connections, collaboration, and community are the keys to our city's success. When we collaborate with our regional partners to successfully provide a strong local economy, those connections support our infrastructure, our school districts, our hospitals, and our local businesses, all of which serve the community. As your councilman at large, I will bring the connections I have established, the education and political science, and the ability to work with others to the council. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much. And that's all I'm going to say tonight.
Thank you very much. Jared, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thanks, Don. I want to just thank everyone for being here. Current elected officials, family, friends, everybody that came out, community members. This is outstanding. It's great to know that people do care in our community. I want to just close with, if elected, which I hope I am, I'm committed to maintaining an excellent level of public safety for our community. I'm committed to supporting our senior citizens and taking care of those populations. And I'm also committed to supporting local business and not just, being a cheerleader from the sidelines. Hey, we're going to do great things for small business, but talk to small business owners, local business owners, and how can we help the bottom line? Because that's what they care about. That's why they're here, and that's why they're going to stay in our community. And lastly, I want to thank my family for being here. I want to thank my parents. At 27 years old, I've had a lot of people ask me, why do you want to run for city council? And I've got a lot of reasons. One being my dad was my first hero. He's one of my mentors, and he's been on city council in Lyman for over 20 years. So I ask for your vote. I ask for your support as a councilman, and help me accomplish my dreams of serving you and continuing to serve you. And I'm committed to making Sedro-Woolley, keeping Sedro-Woolley a great place, and making it a community that people want to come back to. Thank you.
Mary Anderson, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I, too, would like to thank you all for your attendance tonight. You've heard a lot of ideas tonight and several different viewpoints. It's so great when citizens take an active interest in their government. I've found in working with many different groups that when people feel listened to, respected, and valued, they want to participate. So I'd like you to know that not only do I encourage you to contact me with your concerns and ideas, I invite you to do so. Then I can bring them up at City Hall, whether elected or not. That way, we can be sure of Abraham Lincoln's promise that we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Politicians can make many promises. I firmly believe that it's not the words you say, it's the life you live that indicates what kind of leader you'll be. I welcome your scrutiny, your questions, your thoughts, and of course, your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have 2 minutes, Pamela, for your closing statement.
Thank you. Well, so first off, I'd like to encourage you to continue to learn more of all of us as candidates. And if you haven't already taken the time, I do have a website that you can go check out. It's Pamela for swschools.com. I'm also extremely social. I have a really active Facebook page. I'll be doing live Q&A sessions there as well. And I want to come back to something I touched on earlier, that I feel very strongly that every conversation I have with a parent, teacher, community member, I want to treat as if I have a non-disclosure agreement on file with that individual to protect your privacy and to ensure that there's no potential of concerns coming back at you. And in doing so, I've been able to have some really candid and frank conversations with teachers and parents in all facets of our community, and how the schools are both being fantastic and also the spots where there's genuine concerns. I didn't have an opportunity to dive into the high cap issue. It's something I'm also very strongly wanting to look at who's accountable, why that's not being done in the way that it needs to be to best support the schools. I feel like the school district doesn't have a proper pulse on how many students should be in that program, because it's currently set up in such a way where parents are choosing not to pursue it because it's not set up in a way that's meaningful or beneficial. But just in general, I'm the type of person who wants to be approachable. I'm genuinely interested in hearing what you have to say, and I want to make myself available available. That's why I have a phone number listed in the voters pamphlet. You can call me, you can email me, and I've been actively asking people to talk to me. And it's been great. I've had so many conversations in the last several weeks, and I hope to continue to do so. Just more importantly, I'm a parent, I'm a community member, and I'm a business owner, and so I see everything, I'm involved, and I personally believe that a well-educated population is the cornerstone to a healthy society, and I just want to continue to see that for our own little corner of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eric Johnson, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I'd like to thank you all for sticking around for so long. It's getting quite late, so I'm not going to sound like a broken record and say everything that everybody else has said. I just want you to get yourselves educated, be active. I have a Facebook page also that I would love for you to go onto and to pose questions. I will gladly answer them. I'd love to have a dialogue with you. I am too very approachable. I love to listen. Personally, I've lived my life listening first and talking second. I'm not necessarily a words per minute kind of guy. But if you have concerns, please bring them to me, and I'd love to have a chat with you.
Thank you very much, Eric. And Wendy, could you hold that microphone pretty closely?
Sorry about that. I also extend my thanks for all of you coming out this evening. I am eager to advocate for students' learning and education, to be a good steward of education dollars. As a mother of a high school student, education is truly important to me, and I would love to serve the community and the staff of the high school and the whole district, excuse me. And I know the voters pamphlet is available online, and I have more information listed in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, and thanks to each and every one of you for your, truly, for your unselfish desire to serve this community. It's very, very impressive. Could we have a nice round of applause for all the candidates? And I would like to thank our incredible timekeeper, Pat Hayden. Greenwich Mean's got nothing on you, Pat. Bill McCann, who's helped with all the questions tonight, gathering the questions. Let's hear it for Mr. Bill McCann. Thank you, Bill. Former city council member here, too.
And let's hear
special thank you to Mayor Keith Wagner. Mayor Keith Wagner, thank you so very much for all you do.
Can we have a please? We have a thank you for Don Wick.
Aaron Berg. Special thank to Aaron Berg for all the coordination tonight.
And Don Wick.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. And note that the ballots are due August 1st. That's the first Tuesday in August. That would be August 1st. It's the first Tuesday your ballots are due. I'm pretty quick for a Norwegian, let me tell you that. And also, we will be back here on October 18th for the general election. And I want to finish with this very impressive quote from Abraham Lincoln, who said, "Elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. People, please don't sit on your blisters. Make sure to vote, vote, vote." Thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you.
If there's anybody we forgot, thank you so very, very much. Special thank you to Lynn Tucker, Chief Lynn Tucker. Thanks for all your work.
I wasn't sure if I should turn that off or I don't know what to do. This is harder. This is
October 18th, 6 p.m. right here in the Sedro-Woolley City Council chambers.